episode of In Touch with Lucky, where we bring you different guests from all walks of life, but all my guests are special. But today, I think today is specialist guest, if there's such a word. I say that because to me, she's a mother. She's a mother to me, honestly. This is the relationship. That's how I would explain the relationship. So she's special. No offense to all the other guests who've come here, but today we have Pastor Thabani WA. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, honestly, I say that because that is how you interact with me as your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much. We've been wanting to do this for a very long time.
For a long time, indeed.
There was a time when I think we put a date together, and then I got sick.
Yeah.
And then you put another one. Then you were traveling.
Traveling, yes.
And then there was a time when you were not well.
Yes. And we've tried so many times.
We've tried so many times, but I'm so glad that finally
today.
Yes. You look well. I love your outfit. You always look good.
Thank you. I try.
You always do. So when I saw your gold shoes, I said, I'm gonna get my gold shoes.
We're gold today.
So we can match. So I know you, but for me the reason for doing this is there's so many reasons, but I think I am getting into that habit of celebrating people,
mm-hmm.
appreciating people, and this is me wanting to celebrate you by showcasing the woman that you are to me and to other people in the community. This is why I'm doing this, to see how wonderful you are. I know you always say to me, it's God's work, but you are wonderful. This is why I wanted us to do this. So maybe perhaps we can start by just tell us, I know you, but who is Pastor Thabani? Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And things like that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity to share my story, to share who I am. My name is Thabani. My surname before I became Nube, I used Thabani Mukandla. Yes, that's my maiden name on paper, but my original one is Thabani Kolomi or Thabani Nene. Why do I have two surnames? I ended up adopting my mom's surname due to some reasons that maybe we'll talk about later on this program. I was born in Harare from a Zimbabwean woman and a South African dad. My dad was a teacher from South Africa, and I grew up much in Harare. Later on in life, yes. So I'm the firstborn to my mom. But I don't know how many numbers to my dad. So, I'm right to my mom.
Right.
And I have got many siblings. The ones that are from my mom were 6, 3 girls and 3 boys.
Yeah. So you do come from a big family. It's interesting that you mentioned Mukandla. I remember we went to, there's a party that there's a lady who was celebrating her 50th.
Yes.
Mukandla. Caroline, I know she won't mind me mentioning this.
Yes.
But I remember because I was the MC and you got up and you kind of mentioned that you're in Mukandla and all that. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, Pastor Thabani, she's related to everyone. Every event that I've gone to,
I'm a relative.
You are, which is lovely. You're connected somehow to the people, So I just thought I would mention that when you said Uganda. So it is actually true, okay?
It is true. On birth and everything else, I'm Uganda. Yes, I'm Uganda.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. So, you're a pastor, a mother, I've met some of your kids in person and then some I've interacted with, through social media. How do you balance motherhood and everything that you do? Or maybe we'll get to that later.
All right.
Yeah, I think I just had a thought that I didn't mention, sort of when I did the introduction, I didn't quite mention, your mother, just putting on those layers. But we'll park that, we'll talk about that later.
All right.
Right, yeah, so born to a South African dad and a Zimbabwean mom. But I remember there was a time when I rang you. I call you so many times. So now, there was a time when I called you. There's an event I wanted to do about just celebrating, our mothers and all that. And I was saying that it's celebrating mothers and mother figures in your life. We're talking about, a mother not being just biological only. And you were telling me that you were not raised by your mother. Is that correct?
That's very true.
Yeah, maybe you can share a bit of that, whatever you're comfortable with.
My story is a very interesting one because since I mentioned that my father was from a foreign land, so when he got married to my mom, my father didn't pay the complete dowry to my grandfather, the Mkandla family. So one day my mom was visiting her father. My grandfather owns a farm in Slovenia. So my mom was visiting her dad. So we were two siblings. She had two children. It was me and my younger brother.
Right.
So we went and visited my grandfather. And my grandfather, all of a sudden, that time I was 4 years, and he just made a decision and said, "You are going back to your husband with your son, this other child, and this one she's staying here because your husband didn't pay dowry. Just in case he decides to go back to his country without paying my dowry, so I'll hold her," meaning me. "I'm going to hold Thabani, and when she grows up and she gets married, I'll get everything that your husband didn't pay." So my mom, after some time, she went, and I was left with my grandfather. My grandfather had 10 children, and 3 girls and 7 boys. So I was left in a very big family, which is my uncles. Most of them were married. So I remember we used to have this big homestead, and we used to all come and eat in one kitchen. So I ended up growing up with them. When it was time to start school, that was 1975, I was supposed to go to grade 1. I went to St. Joseph's School in Slovenia, and I went there. They said, no, I was too young because I couldn't hold my ear this way. So I was sent back home.
Sorry to just hold that thought. I'm thinking a 5-year-old who's come to visit grandparents. And then you're confiscated.
Yeah, I was literally, that's the correct word.
Confiscated because your father had not finished paying the dowry. Wow.
Yeah.
I know 5 is probably young. Do you remember do you remember how you felt then? It's probably a long time ago, I know, I suppose, but
I don't really think I remember, but what I know is I had a lovely childhood because I had so many cousins. Okay. My cousins were there, and I would say I was loved.
Okay.
Yeah, I was loved. So I don't remember the trauma and anything of that. And maybe being a child, you were told Mom is going to come back tomorrow.
Of course.
And then you're like, okay, let her go. But that tomorrow became years. So I started grade 1 in 1976. 1977, the liberation struggle in Zimbabwe started. And my grandfather just decided every child has to go to the city, to his sons. Because most of my uncles were working. So I was sent to my mom's younger brother. My mom was from a second wife.
Okay.
So my grandmother, my mom's mom, Umangwenya, she had only 2 children. She had my mom and my uncle Elliot.
Okay.
So I was sent to Elliot in Harare. Yeah. So my uncle had just got married. So when I came, I didn't have a birth certificate because. So my uncle and his wife just went and took a birth certificate for me. So on birth certificate on record, my dad is Elliot Mkandla, and my mom is Susan Matokotere Mkandla.
Wow.
So that's how I became Mkandla.
I see.
Yeah. That's how I became Mkandla.
Oh my goodness.
And
wow.
from then, I stayed with them until I left.
So you were their firstborn child?
I became their firstborn child. Yeah. And funny enough, as you are saying, my Mbuya's family, the Matokotere family, used to think that my uncle was lying, that I am his sister's daughter.
But you're actually his child.
Yeah, they thought I was his child. Because they say I look like my uncle.
That's what
my
happens.
Uncle looks like my mom. So yeah, they were used to say, no, Lamanga is lying, that his child is trying to just not tell you the truth.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you've moved from Slovenia now, you are now in Harare.
Yeah.
Did mom used to visit? You don't?
Yeah, unfortunately, my mom, the times that she came, my mom was under domestic violence.
Oh.
Yeah. So the most of times that she came, totally the funny thing, my mom's family thought my mom was married to the poorest man. In a family, a teacher was the poorest person.
Right.
So my uncles were, most of them, well up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my mom, whenever she went through some domestic violence or she's hurt in that whatever, she'll come to her brother.
Of course.
And my uncle would take her to the doctors and whatever.
Oh.
And then later on she'll go. So she'll come once in a while.
Yeah.
And then she'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mbuya Susan,
Mm.
did you end up calling your mom growing up?
Most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, most of the time. Because I think she's the mom that I came to know.
Yeah.
When I was just starting to know things, she was the person there. And to me, as I was saying that I was raised by another woman, she meant a lot.
I know you said that.
Yeah, she meant a lot. I never realized until she passed due to COVID. She meant a lot. We would sit down, we would talk and talk and talk. But with my own mom, it wasn't like that because I never really knew her much.
Of course.
It was only when I was 21 years when I got married and I took the dowry part, the change after whatever was taken for my grandfather Mkanja. And they said whatever is left, this is what our father said we must take. So the rest you go and look for your father and give him.
So exactly what your grandfather had said, that
Yes.
when this girl then gets married,
Mm.
I will get my
My share.
my share.
Yeah.
So you had to pay.
Yeah, I paid my own dowry.
Wow.
I paid for my mom's dowry. Yeah. So I later on went and looked for because from then I never saw my dad. I never saw my dad at all. At all.
I know this is probably not part of the reason why we're here, but I'm just curious. Like looking back at your childhood and you turned out well and all that. I'm seeing a lot of things coming out culturally, like there's that separation from your mother. Even though you were okay, I guess being a child, sometimes you don't really know what you're going through. But I'm just imagining the separation anxiety that your mother must have gone through. You've just gone to visit your father and now you're coming back with the other child is left behind.
For me, I don't think it was much of separation on her part.
Okay.
It was much of how do I tell this man where did I put your child?
Oh.
How do you leave home with two children and you come back with one child? How do you explain that? Yeah, I think for her it was that kind of thing, and especially married to a man who was violent in some ways. I think that was most of her fears.
Right.
Because she knew that I was in safe hands.
You were safe, absolutely.
Yeah, she
absolutely.
knew that I was going to be looked after well.
Yes. And your grandfather sounded like a powerful man.
My grandfather actually fought in the Burma War. He was recruited by the British and he went to fight along the British Army in Burma. So he got trained after the war, the privileges of serving with the British Army. He was trained as a builder, as a carpenter as well.
Right.
So he was a man with order.
Yes. I can see, just even commanding,
Yes.
Now you're going here, you're going here,
And he was a big man. He was a very tall man, like really that towering figure. Yes. Even some of my uncles, they are so tall. They wear size 14. Some of them can't find shoes on their own. They get their shoes cut at butter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Right, you're with auntie and uncle, and then you did your primary education. Then where did you go to high school? So
we lived a little bit in Highfield. Yes. And then immediately 1979, just when we were just about to finish, the war was about to finish, we moved to Southerton. So I grew up actually in Southerton. Yeah, I grew up in Southerton. Then I went to Lord Melvin for high school.
Right.
But I only stayed there for 3 years because something happened and I had to stop school.
What did you do, Pastor Thabani? You've already shared with me. Please share if you don't
So
mind.
when I was just about going to form 4,
Yes.
I fell pregnant.
Right.
So I became a teenage mom just
Right.
before I was 18 years. I fell pregnant. I had my first daughter when I was 18 years.
Yeah.
But later on, when I had the baby, I had to go back to high school again. So I ended up going to Highfield High.
Okay, that's good. So tell me about that time. Probably in a bit more detail. You fall pregnant. Who did you tell? Did you tell anyone? Like, what did you do?
Falling pregnant at that age, especially in my generation, it was a bit traumatic.
Yeah.
It was a bit traumatic, and you don't even realize, because you have an encounter with this person, you don't even know what you're doing.
True.
And then the next thing, you're pregnant.
True.
And you don't even realize. I think in yourself, you are telling yourself that, no, there's nothing.
Yeah.
But later on, our parents were very observant, because they were always there. They start seeing some changes and all of those things. It was actually my auntie, my Mbuya Susan, that realized that something's right. And she used to wake in the city, and she said one day, you need to take a shower in the morning, and we're going together to my work.
Okay.
So that's when she took me to the doctors, and they confirmed that I was pregnant.
Wow.
And then we had to start the process and whatever, all these other things.
They didn't kick you out?
In our Ndebele culture, no, we don't do that.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they will find ways how to take you there, but no, we don't do that.
Yeah. All right. I find a lot of people ended up in marriages maybe that they were not supposed to be in necessarily. A child has made a mistake. You're just now sending her to this person whom she even barely knows. She doesn't even know herself, let alone, some have worked out, but majority,
doesn't.
Yeah. All right.
No, yeah, I was blessed because I had. So when I went to this guy's family, then it was a privilege that I met a mother-in-law. Was very nice. Yeah, she advocated. My mother-in-law then, she also was pregnant at 13 years.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
So the mom took her in, sent her back to school. She studied, became very successful.
That's her, your mother-in-law then.
My mother-in-law then.
Quite interesting.
Yeah. And then she was the one who advocated and said, no, this girl needs to go back to school.
Yes.
Yeah, she gave me the privilege to took after my youngest, my first daughter. She became a responsibility, and I went back to school.
Right.
But I couldn't go back to the school where I was.
Sure.
I had to go far.
Highfield.
So that I could start under disguise. Yeah.
Right. Were you breastfeeding?
I did breastfeed, but I think breastfeeding is not my thing.
Don't worry, it's not my thing either. All right. No, I was just curious, this guys and all that. Wow, that's quite interesting. I'm so glad that your mother-in-law then really stood in the gap, because I think that is what sometimes lacks in our cultures, whereby you've been through it. It's happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is another child. It's happened to her. You're acting as if, oh my goodness, she's committed the most.
Horrendous sin.
Exactly, and really, even if it hadn't happened to her, just being kind.
Being a woman, being a mother.
Yes, the way you would want your daughter to be treated.
Exactly.
No, that is, I'm so glad, that she did that, and you're here now.
I'm here now.
Because of those advocates. Right, so you go back to high school, and then your child is also sort of growing with you, isn't it?
She was growing with me as well.
Right.
So the funny thing is, my eldest daughter and I, we looked very alike. People say we look very alike. So even if we stay together now, because of the age gap,
yes,
we almost look the same age.
Yes.
I think that's the beauty that
because for you don't age, you're always looking younger and younger. So I can see, you look like sisters.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Oh wow, no, that's interesting. It's good that we're having these conversations as well, that, there's someone watching, we've got kids, things happen, you have a child before you know it, you're a mother, just knowing that it's not the end of the world.
It's not.
You know, it's not the end of the world, and you look at you now, you're here, you know, you've got testimonies, and your daughter is doing well.
Yeah, we've got two. Then she's not the only one, there are two. I ended up having two.
Yes.
Unfortunately, their father died.
Oh.
Yeah, their father later died, and God gave me a chance to remarry, very good man as well.
So you got married
to their father, yeah.
Oh.
I got married, yeah.
Oh, right.
I got married. When their father died, my eldest daughter, she was 7.
Okay.
And the youngest one was 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so you stayed in the family for a bit. How was the treatment? I mean, you had a mother-in-law that was nice anyway, from what I gather.
It's so funny that you asked that, because when I was there, everything was very nice. But when the father to them died, things changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, things really changed. That cultural shock, it really changed. And unfortunately, I had to leave the children for some time. They would not allow me to see the children. And I'm talking of a very rich family that for me to fight them was nothing. Yeah, I was nothing then. So, yeah, but God later brought them into our lives.
Oh, that's good, yes. Wow. Yeah, so that, and then how long are you sort of by yourself? And what else is happening? Are you doing any studies, or after that, after you lost your husband? I
didn't really do any studies. I was just too heartbroken, I think.
Fair enough.
Being a widow at 24 years, I was too young.
Yeah.
Actually, I was too young. So I didn't really do studies.
No.
I just started doing a little bit of business here and there, not really serious business, selling and buying. But within the country, I never went outside the country, yes. So that was what I was doing, until just one day I just said, I need to go to Bulawayo, to my aunties, because my mom's family, they're very, very close.
Right.
So I went to visit one of my aunties after 3 years. That's when I came to meet my husband. Yes. Doing that.
I'm back to grandfather. I don't know, I love your grandfather. You saying that your family was very close. You can see that because of that, the type of man your grandfather was.
Yes.
I think, I don't know about your grandmother, the kind of woman she was, but from the little that you said about your grandfather, I can see why.
My grandfather was a prominent man. Yes, there was grandma, but yeah, I think the main person was my grandfather.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he died sometime because of the civil war that happened in our country.
Right.
He was one of the farmers that died in Slovenia. So yeah, that was the missing part.
Yeah. Then you meet your now husband. Right. How was that? Was it love at first sight? Did you meet him? Tell me everything. What you can.
Oh, it's so funny how I met Albert. It's so really, really funny. I had gone to Blue and I wanted to go and watch a movie. So I don't know Blue at all that time. So I went for a movie. It was on a Sunday. So that time there were no shops that were open after hours or whatever. So I went for a movie. After the movie finishes, now I'm lost. I'm like, how did I come here? Where do I get the taxis, Makombi, to go back home? So I just started walking. I'm like, sense of direction, let me walk that way. I'm walking, no one, I can't see anyone to ask. Then all of a sudden I turned my back. I saw this man coming. I said, just let me wait here at this traffic light.
Yes.
Robot.
Yes.
And
robot.
I will ask him. So this man is walking, he's coming. Then I said, excuse me, I want to find Makombi going to get where my auntie was. And he says, how come you don't know where they are? I said, I'm new. I'm from Harare, so I don't know. So he says, okay, I know it's actually on my way where I'm going. I can walk with you. So we walked together. I was doing his apprenticeship.
How old are you at this time?
26.
Right.
26. So we walked together. And he shows me where to get the Makombi, and then I go home. And before that he says, can I come and see you tomorrow? So I'm like, I've got nothing to lose anyway. So I said, okay, you come and see me tomorrow. So he comes tomorrow. I tell my auntie, Mama Mani, there's this guy that is coming to see me. So my auntie and I, we go and stand outside. So this guy comes, my husband now, Albert, he comes, he walks, and he goes past. My auntie says, Sisti. My family, they call me Sisti.
Right.
Sister, this is a good man.
Oh.
I said, how do you know? You just saw the guy. He
Yes.
says, this is a good man. I said, Mom, and how do you know?
Yes.
He says, you know, these boys here, they'll
Yes.
be lifting up their ears,
Yes.
looking at us, whatever. This guy just walked as if he doesn't see you, as if he
Wow.
didn't know you.
Wow.
And that was it.
One thing led to another.
The one
Before you know
thing, we
it.
dated only 6 months. In 3 months, he said, I want to get married. I'm like, you're a serious joke. I just took off. I went to Harare.
Wow. At what point did you tell him you had 2 kids and you were married before?
On that very day.
That's good.
Yeah, but he thought, he says, when I told him
Yeah.
that I've got 2 children, he thought I was joking.
Because you didn't look like your kids yet.
Yeah, so that was it. And then he says, later on he says, I want to get married. I want to go and get my uncle, Sekuru wangu, kumusha in Philippus. And me, I'm just thinking, you know, these guys, sometimes they get too excited for nothing. And he goes.
So you obviously wasn't married before or anything?
He wasn't. Married.
No kids?
No kids. No kids at all. No kids. So he goes, me, I'm going back to Harare. And then I hear my auntie calls, Sister, abantu bako, they are here. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, Albert brought his Sekuru and they want to start the dowry process. Yeah. So I've been married now to Albert since 1992. That's how long we've been married.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Just a cheeky question. So when you did the dowry with your first husband, I'm sure you really emphasized the importance of dowry, considering what your mother had gone through with your grandfather saying that your father didn't finish. Did that impact on that process for you? Like when they were coming?
No, it was not a negotiation. It was not my part to negotiate.
Okay.
It was my uncles to negotiate, because now they were my Sekuru wangu and my father's as well.
Right.
Yeah. So my dad was not informed. He was not told that your daughter is getting married at all.
Yeah.
He was not told.
Probably didn't even know where he was anyway.
Yeah, we did it.
Wow. I'm really amazed. It's such a beautiful story. You know, you're having 2 children, having been married before, and you meet this man who's never been married, never had kids, and, you know, he falls in love with you. I guess I'm just saying that, you know, there's hope for all of us.
Definitely. I always say that people don't realize that your story is never complete until God says it's done. Your story is never complete. I would never thought that I was going to marry to such a good husband, to such a good family. Because after the passing of my first husband, I was like, I will show them. Anyone who does anything silly to me, yes, I'm not going to take that on.
No.
I married into this family that loved me, accepted my children. My children today, even if they say home, they're talking of Felapusi.
Wow.
If they talk of Daddy's Coco, they're talking of my mother-in-law.
Yes.
Yeah, Albert's mom.
Yes.
They received them. I've never heard anyone saying, Akawe never, whatever. No, I've never heard of that. I'll be lying. Or if they did, but I never heard of it.
No, correct. And really,
to the extent that even my 2 daughters, when they got married, they said there's no one who's fit to eat our dowry besides this man. He's the one who raised us up. He was the one who paid our fees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a man. I find that, you know, we need to celebrate those men more as well.
Indeed.
Just to appreciate them for standing in the gap for the men who are not there for whatever reason. Like for you, it was death. You know, your husband died, so he stood up. But then there's also other men who are standing in the gap for men who really don't want to take responsibility. So we need to celebrate, you know, those men. I'm gonna invite him one day.
One day.
You know, just, you know, because it's quite rare, and I feel it's kind of sort of accepted that a woman can be a stepmother,
yeah,
but it's different when it's the man.
Vice versa, yes.
When it's vice versa, you know, because I guess maybe the woman is the one who's really managing the house. She's the one who's spending the time with the kids anyway, you know. But I think it's important to have a male role model in, you know. So for your husband to take on that role to say these are my children, it's a big deal.
I also suppose that it comes also from the background where that man is coming from. Because when I came into this family, I learned a lot, things that I never thought would happen.
Wow. Wow.
So my mother-in-law also has got 7 sons and 3 girls. So if I would go home and buy some groceries and bring them there, my mother-in-law will never touch anything. She will call the whole homestead, even the workers. They will all come and sit down. And she will say, we want to give thanks. Ngati 10 days, we give on my time. So she will not start by me because I'm not the first. I'm not the eldest daughter-in-law.
Sure.
So she will lead. She always led us how to thank. She'll say Engube, and everyone says Engube. Enguchani, which is my eldest sister-in-law.
Yes.
Everyone says Enguchani. Mkandra, meaning me.
Yes.
And she will name all the 7, but I'm the only one who brought the groceries. But she will thank all the 7 of us.
Wow, Echiera.
Yes, like that. She will always do that.
Wow.
And I saw their homestead as well was solid. Like we would come home and say, oh, everyone is excited. They were husbandry farmers. So I went in Butzi, Nemakwai, Nimombe.
Yes.
So we'll come, my mother-in-law and father will say, but my time is over here. So mom and dad will hold hands and go kudanga. So they'll ask us, what do you want? Why? Then you choose whatever you want. Then they'll go holding their hands to the danga.
Wow.
And then they'll call the wakomana vaishanda kuti batai iyi mbudzi. Yo uya mbudzi yapamba. Yonzi maitariso usawi wenuyu. So I think also it's the upbringing of the sons.
Yes.
Because some of the men that we have, I'm not judging.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
So most of it is how you're brought up.
Yes.
Your upbringing also affects a lot in our lives.
And then there's some mothers. I'm so glad that you're saying these lovely things about your mother-in-laws. I say that because you said the same about the first one and then this one. That the daughter-in-law buys whatever she buys and then she sends to like I do groceries in Zimbabwe. I'll give a classic example of what I kind of see in my everyday life. The daughter-in-law comes like, I want to buy something from my mother-in-law, just want to surprise her, and then you send the order. And then some people come in and say, can you imagine? She did not even say thank you. You don't buy things for people to say thank you. Absolutely. But they will then go and thank the son. You know, and then the son sometimes doesn't even know
that you did that.
So then the son will be like, oh, I know nothing. Then that's when, oh, okay, so it must be the daughter-in-law. So I'm just saying that, like for your mother-in-law to then...
It's a spirit of error.
Yes, and exactly. And really, even if it was your son who's bought, but these are people who are married.
True, yeah.
It's their money together.
Indeed.
It's their money together. I've just picked up something very interesting. I don't know whether it's, maybe you can tell me what it is. You're always positive, which I love. But I always say, look, you can correct me, but I find that it's up to you as an individual to see the good in people. We could take different daughter-in-laws from those mother-in-laws we've had. Maybe they'll have a different perspective of the mother-in-laws that they had. Would you say that you see the good always, or they're good?
As I said to you, that upbringing matters a lot. So Mbuya wangu inini, the Mbuya that brought me up, she was a vibrant woman. She loved people. She loved people like so much. To the extent that I even think that, if my Mbuya died and my Sekuru is still there. If sometimes I always say, if I had a choice, I would say my Sekuru should die and my Mbuya live.
Oh, that's
how good she was.
Yes.
She was a people's person.
Yes.
She was a loving person. People call it, they live in my plot.
Right.
In Harare.
Yes.
They live in Tinwald.
Yes.
Van Mamengo, she'll collect the children, Masai, she'll give the people. So we grew up in that kind of an environment where, she extended herself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is lovely. Oh my goodness. Wow.
And for me, because of maybe as well, because of the things that happened in my life,
yes,
I've learned to appreciate people. Yeah, I've learned to see good in people.
Yep.
And the other thing, when I was in Zimbabwe, when we lived in Shurukwi, I used to work for Ministry of National Women's Affairs.
Okay.
And we were part of the group that used to do Midamirefu.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to work under Daneda, which was a Danish organization that was funding the women's projects in Zimbabwe.
Sure.
So they'll take the women from the streets and all those things. And when you sit down with a woman and say, why are you prostituting yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You only realize that the person is not wanting to prostitute herself.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that has happened into their life which has pushed them to that.
Right.
So I learned not to judge people.
No, you don't.
Because you don't know.
Yes.
The person may be doing whatever they're doing, but you don't know why she's there.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone could have just lost their husband. And with our culture, like we tolerate everything. You still have to fend for the children.
Yes.
What do? You end up prostituting. And who am I to go and say, you don't know my story.
No, you don't.
Yeah. So I've learned to always say no. Appreciate the person, love the people unconditionally.
Look, I am a recipient of that unconditional love from you. She's not just saying this, she lives this life. I remember when I got pregnant, I think I saw you at an event somewhere. Probably, I don't know that I was pregnant or I'd given birth, and then I was covering my face like that. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, Pastor New is gonna say, oh, type of thing, And then I said, oh, Mama, and then you're like, what? Come here, please. Come. Oh no, I think I had given birth because I remember you saying, bring my grandson.
Grandson, yes.
Bring my grandson. This is every time I see you. How is my grandson? Where's my grandson? I never felt judged, to say, oh, you had a child outside your wedlock, and you live that. You are a true believer of, just don't judge people. Right. And you don't.
I always try never to judge people.
Wow. But how do you do that though? How?
Life is a teacher. I always say the biggest teacher in this life that we live is life.
So would you say it's also because of partly your experiences as well?
My experiences, yes.
Yeah.
The experiences that I've gone through, and coming also from a bigger family, so you see a lot of people going through a lot of things, and you learn because this is my family, this is my auntie, this is my sister, this is my brother, this is my uncle. So you learn to appreciate people.
But some people forget, even though they've been through it themselves, or even worse sometimes by whatever standards. But they sort of forget, and then they're judging other people. You're thinking, but who are you to judge? Because you don't know people's stories.
No, you don't. We don't. Until you sit down, like what you did. Until you sit down and you ask me, who are you?
Yes.
Then at least you get a glimpse of my life.
A glimpse. Oh, no, you are amazing for that. Right. So then, back to the story of now you're married and all that. I know you lived in New Zealand for a bit. And then you came to Australia. How long did you live in New Zealand?
We lived in New Zealand for 8 years.
8 years.
Yes.
Right.
We left home 2001. We went to Belfast.
Ireland?
In Ireland, I lived for 2 years. Then we went to New Zealand in Auckland for 8 years. Then we came here in 2010.
Right. I didn't know that Belfast stint. Right. How long were you in Belfast?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Okay. Just 2 years.
Oh, nice. Right. So I guess the weather wasn't too bad, Belfast and New Zealand.
Very cold. Belfast is cold.
Colder than New Zealand?
Yeah, snow. In Auckland it doesn't snow.
Doesn't snow, I suppose,
It rains a lot, but doesn't snow.
Right. Okay, no, I didn't know you lived in Belfast. I have cousins who live there. Yes. Then you come to Australia. How do you now, because I've just known you as Pastor Thabani. Where does Pastor Thabani come from? Like, how did that come about now?
15 minutes.
10 minutes. Oh, Jesus. I wasn't a pastor in New Zealand.
Right.
I wasn't a pastor at all, but I started pastoring here. Maybe when you look back, you start realizing, no, there were indicators that were there already. Even when I was growing up, there were things that were happening that I did not even understand. And when I came here, I started going to this church. All of a sudden in this church, the senior pastor leaves, the junior pastor marries, and the day get married, he goes. So the church is left, there's no pastor. And then the elders and the founders of that church, they approached me and said, the Lord has asked us to ask you to pastor us. So I was like, no way, I'm not a pastor in any way. In any way, I can't be a pastor. So they said, no, the Lord has spoken.
Yeah.
So we went on a prayer, on a fast for 2 weeks. I was like, God, if it's you, you have to confirm.
Yes.
Then after 2 weeks, it really did. I did get a confirmation.
Right.
Then, I started pastoring. And unfortunately, that church had to wind up. We had to leave. Albert and I had to leave to do some things. And then I stayed. I wasn't pastoring. Then 2016, that's when we founded the ministry that we are in, which is called Jesus the Center Ministries. Yes, and we're in Cockburn.
Is that right? No, I believe what you said, that I am a big believer in that. If you see someone, like even I'll use myself as an example. People who knew me, let's say from maybe a greater part of primary school even, they are not surprised
that you are here.
That I'm here.
Doing what we are doing, yes.
100%. It does not surprise them at all. So there will be things there. And I believe that's how God works. Like He's just moving pieces here, moving that, pastors have to leave and then you sort of come in and all that. I believe that 100%.
Amen.
Yes. So there's no funeral, no, I'll say funeral, I don't want to say party as such, but funeral that I have not seen you at. You are everywhere, in a good way, like you're there. How do you do it? And you're a mother as well, and a wife, and a pastor. How do you do that? How?
This is where we say God knows our lives. I was a teenage mom. All my children are grown up. So God, I think He knew where He was taking me. Yeah, then it was an embarrassment being a teenage mom in my generation. But God was working all things together for my good.
100%.
Because now my youngest daughter, she's 25 years. They're serving the ministry with me. All my children, they're serving the ministry with me.
Yes.
So now we find our home, I've got nothing. And I trained my children. They do everything and all the other things. So we find I have enough time to be a minister.
I see.
And I am a stand believer of my community.
You are.
I stand for my community. I love my people. I am a person because they are there for me and all those things. So I always try. The least I can do is to avail myself.
You
the
do.
least that I can do.
And
whether it's a party, a funeral, I don't care. If I
Yes.
can, if it's possible, I always try to go.
No, you do. People who know me, they know I don't answer my phone because if I answer phone, that's all I'll ever do. But your phone call, sometimes I'll miss your call, but I'll always call you back because whenever I've also reached out to you, you're always answering. Oh, my daughter, sorry, I was busy. Or can I call you back after 10 minutes? And you do. So you always, and every time you've called me, funny enough, it's never for yourself. It's for someone. Oh, lucky there's this one, A, B, C, D. Can the community do this? I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't.
Yeah.
But it's always, you do avail yourself. It's just amazing to watch. Then we talk about the parties. I see you dancing on the dance floor. Coffee on me there. Pastor Thabani is right in the center. I'm thinking, wow. You are so relatable to the young ones and the older women. How because some people think, oh, you can't listen to that music and all that, but
Yes, the church sometimes is a very sad scenario because people, they don't live the gospel. Jesus had an issue like that. He will go and eat in the house of the prostitute. They're like, what?
Yes.
You're eating? But Jesus says, I did not come for the good ones. I came for these ones.
Correct.
So if we distance ourselves and just make ourselves to sit on high tables, how are people going to relate to us?
They can't.
How are we going to minister to them?
They can't.
How can we speak into their lives?
Yes.
It's only when we reduce ourselves
Yes.
to them
Yes.
so that they can actually think, oh, so I can speak to Pastor T.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
As much as God has given me anointing and calling and whatever, because my ministry is deliverance.
It is.
I do a lot of deliverance in our ministry. But I don't want to think that I'm a high flyer. God called me for the people. So if I separate myself and leave the people alone, who are you leading?
Yeah.
I have to be there with the people.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there are times I separate myself, but in occasions like that, I have to be there for my people. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I believe. That's the gospel that I believe in.
Yes. No.
That Jesus, they persecuted him for him. Why do you eat with sinners? Why do you drink wine? Why do you do this? Why do you do that?
Yes.
But they didn't understand.
Yes.
Unless we mingle with them, then they see the light.
Ah.
Unless we stay and eat with them, then they hear our conversation, the words that come out of us. Then they realize that we are different. Yeah.
No, you are truly amazing. Honestly, I remember I put a comment one time on Loza. Someone wrote something, I can't remember. And then I think they were looking for a church, or I can't remember something. Then I just put the, I tagged you, I said, Pastor Thabani, love personified. And that comment got a lot of likes and reaction. This to me was just people agreeing with me,
Jesus.
agreeing. There's some characters, like, I'll use myself again as an example. People say, oh, Lucky. Some will be like, oh. And they're like, oh, yeah. Some will say, I like Lucky. Some might not so much. And that's okay. That's people.
That's people.
But for you, honestly, I'm yet, not that it matters, but it's just a point to make. I'm yet to really see anybody who doesn't like Pastor Thabani. Like, if you don't like Pastor Thabani, you've got something wrong with you, because you are such an amazing woman. So do you, I know it's good that you don't have, young kids to take care of you and all that. Maybe I should send your grandson maybe to come. But do you sort of take time to yourself? Like to do self-care? What do you do to look after yourself? Because you look good, you really, really look well.
One thing that I have learned is to eat well. I eat well. I eat very well. I'm a meat eater. Okay. So I'm not as, I rather have no sort of starch in it. But I've learned to eat for my body. And I've learned how to dress for my body.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine, my best friend is a tailor. So from the beginning, she used to say, T, with this board of yours, you need to dress this way, this way, this way. I learned some cues from there. So people don't believe that I've got a tummy. I don't have a tummy.
No, you don't.
But because I dress appropriately for the tummy, so you can never see it.
No, you look good.
So it's just taking time. Yes, I've got a very supportive husband. My husband is very supportive, to be honest. Even at church, they know that.
Yes.
We do have our getaways.
Right.
I was just telling the young man here that over the weekend, someone put us in a very nice hotel. We went out, we're like, we're going to spend time. But we found ourselves up. My day starts at 3 a.m. My regular day, every day actually, almost every day.
What are you doing at 3 a.m. praying?
I spend time in prayer. That's when I have time with God.
Wow.
So I pray until maybe around 6 a.m.
Wow.
Then I also start getting ready for work.
Wow.
Yeah, and that kind of thing. So that is my time with God.
Wow.
Yes.
And you're working as well. I think we should mention that. You're working at a school with kids, isn't it?
I do work with kids.
Wow. 4 days a week.
Yeah, I work 4 days a week.
I remember that you said there's that day, Thursdays.
Actually, I used to be in a classroom situation, but at some time of my life, I had a problem with muscle loss.
Okay.
So here, children, you have to go down on the floor, get up and whatever. Yeah. So I ended up leaving totally. And I just said, give me hours for before and after school care.
Right.
And so I do before and after school care, then I do vacation care. So before and after school care, I start at 6:30, finishing at 9:30.
Yes.
Then I go back at 3. So I've got some hours there where I can rest, where I can do pastoral work as well.
Pray for Lucky.
Pray for Lucky. Indeed.
Wow, I'm just thinking I don't know what the word to use, but those kids that you care for at school, I don't know. I don't think they realize what. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because you're such a good woman. I'm saying that because, like, my son, he goes to a Christian school. It's a very good school, and I appreciate those teachers so much because I've interacted with them and I know what they believe in and all that, and they're really good teachers, and that's what my son needs. So I'm just thinking, I hope these kids realize what you're sowing into them. They don't have to, of course.
They don't have to, but for me, I always believe that because I come from a corporate world. My background is a corporate world.
Yeah.
So coming to a school, I hated being a school teacher at all because my dad was a school teacher and I thought he was a failure. And then I married my husband's family. There are so many teachers. My father-in-law was a teacher as well. So I always said I'll never be a teacher.
You'll never be a teacher?
Yeah. So For me, I believe I was sent there for a reason.
Right.
To work with children.
Ah, right.
Yes.
No, and you're sowing into the future.
Yeah,
you know,
I believe.
they are the future. So yeah. So what are your goals though? Before we kind of wrap up, what are your goals? Like what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Seems like we've done it all. Is there anything that you wish to do? Anything on your bucket list that?
There's so many. You know, the older you get, your perspective of life also changes.
Right.
Yeah. For me, maybe to say just the preview is that one day I will go back home and retire.
Okay.
So I was even sharing this vision that I have with my husband and my cousin and their husband. I was like, because we bought some land, I was like, I would want to go back home sometime and bring the community children, read stories, read books for them, bring books, just the feel of the books, to open pages, and get the women in the community, maybe pack some vegetables and just say, leave the children here, come back at this hour. And when they come back, they've got packed vegetables to take home for a meal. So that is my vision. Of course, I still have work here in Perth because there's some things that God told me about this city of Perth. So we still need to work here. And of course, to empower women. For me, I believe in empowering people. Yes, I believe in empowering people.
Wow.
So,
wow. It's gonna kill me because we're running out of time, but I'm just amazed by that goal, that vision that you have for when you retire. Like for me, I'm saying, I wanna retire. I wanna go traveling with my friends. I wanna, but for you, you're putting the community in the center. These kids, truly, there's a child there in Zimbabwe who has never felt a book. Wow.
Yes, I would love to. And one thing that you're saying, when we were brought up by my uncle and my aunt, they were educated people. We were made to read the newspaper whether you like it or not. Growing up in South Africa, we used to have newspaper delivered every morning. So we grew up with the paper. My uncle would take the paper to work. When he comes, we'll all be given a page of the paper, the newspaper, the Herald, whatever. You read, you pass it on, you read, you pass it on, you read, you pass it on. And I was an avid reader.
Yes.
I read Famous Five, the Hard Boys, whatever. I was a reader.
Yes.
Even today, I can't really sleep without reading. I have to read the Bible, but my reading has changed.
Yes.
I have to read something.
Someone once wrote on a Facebook post saying that I have trouble, speaking English and all that. And I remember commenting to say that you also cannot get out what you didn't put in. So you have to read books. When you're reading, you're absorbing, the language and all that, which is why you speak so well, You
have to be read. Yeah, I read. And being a pastor as well, because the most challenging thing is pastoring people who are more educated than you. Because that's the reality.
Yes.
You've got people that have masters, whatever.
Yes.
And I don't have a master's.
Yes.
But I'm well read that I can relate to every person.
Correct.
Yeah. You have to be well read to be relevant.
You have to. But one of my lecturers used to say, we need to know a little about a lot.
Yes.
Just know something. Yeah.
Yes.
So you can relate to different people.
Yes.
Wow. Look, I could talk to you all day. I'm so thankful that you've agreed to do this. Long overdue, but really, that saying that really, I want to do that with you, literally. I will try to hide them so you don't see them.
I thought they were for deco.
No, they're for you, but especially for you, really. This is just on behalf of the community, really, to say, Pastor Thabani, we appreciate you so much. You are an amazing person in our community. We don't know where our community would be without people like you. We've had people come here on this podcast talking about different topics, and then they mention you in good light, Pastor Thabani helped me with this, and I am here, you helped me with so many things. So many people appreciate you, but maybe sometimes people don't have the platform to really tell you. Sometimes we wait for birthdays and all that, but no, this is really on behalf of the Zimbabwean community to say, Pastor Thabani, we love you so much. Thank you for everything you do for us.
Thank you so much. I am receiving these flowers on your behalf as well. Thank you so much for recognizing that. And thank you for being the woman that is standing up. I always say you inspire me. You really inspire me. You're inspiring the younger women. We look up to you as well, the things that you do in our community. And I know there are marvelous women, beautiful women outside there. I really appreciate to be surrounded by women like you. I always say, to be a pastor, to be where I am, is because I'm surrounded by good people. I'm surrounded by women that mean well for me.
Yeah.
So I thank you for your prayers. I thank you for your love.
Yeah.
I thank you for this gift.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. No, thank you. We love you, Pastor Thabani.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.